Hello, beloved consumers. Thank you for joining us for UNICAST. I'm Unicole Unicron,
I'm Jeremy Garner.
and today we're going to be talking about the idea of why don't you get a real job? Jeremy, what's a real job?
I like to think that what a real job is a job that you're passionate about, where your heart is at, but that's not considered a real job in today's society.
By
Today's
most people.
society today's society defines a real job as one that pays, I think. But that's still not completely true because there's also jobs that are paid that are considered like not real jobs too,
Like what? Oh,
like
like cam
prostitution.
work and prostitution? Yeah, for sure. That's not a real job,
Anyway,
but it is paying. No, it's true. And like a lot of people say you can't call yourself a professional, like you can't call yourself a professional artist or a professional snowboarder or anything like that unless you're making a majority of your income through that. I've been
yeah.
told that.
Hmm.
So like
Yeah.
why it's like so money based, it's very strange. But only you're right, only with like certain only up to a
Certain
point.
types of jobs. And if you ask people about those other jobs that they don't consider real, a lot of the time their excuses is, well, because they're just doing stuff that they don't want to do for money. Like they're just forcing themselves going through all this stuff they don't want to do for money, which is literally what everyone's doing. And you really pointed that out to me. It's like that's what everyone is pretty much doing.
Yeah, nobody wants to sell their time to someone else.
No one wants to be getting up so early in the morning and like being
Chugging
stuck in this
coffee
regime.
and
Yeah.
going to traffic and dressing in clothes you would never wear on the weekends.
Putting on this whole facade, pretending to be somebody else. Yeah,
It's
selling
so
your
sad.
selling your mind, body, and soul to something you didn't want to be at. But that's a real job though, and then other ones aren't, even though they're both paying. And some of them pay a lot more money, and they're still considered not real jobs. So
We've been told a lot lately, get a real job, because we started a GoFundMe for the costs of Jeremy moving to the United States for us to get married and for him to immigrate here. We did that for two reasons, primarily because the immigration fees and everything are very expensive and we need the help. And the other reason is because we're two creators with a fan base and we want to get our community engaged with our love story
the
and with our
story.
creation. Yeah. And we love to be interactive with our community in that way. So we're offering a lot of different levels of rewards on our GoFundMe. So it's not even just asking for money, it's more of like a service and product kind of exchange. And as soon as we announced it, there was some serious attacks from friends and family. Why don't you get a real job? Even though we're offering handmade T-shirts, music that we've made, music that you've made, and transit, these specific things that we can provide. But apparently it's not, considered a real job. And so, yeah, we're just here today to explore that topic of what is a real job? Why do people get so angry when they see somebody else just doing something that
They want to be doing.
they want? I mean, you think it's jealousy? Do you think it's all jealousy, or do you think
No, I
like,
don't think it's all jealousy, but there's definitely a part that is jealousy. People don't want other people to be happy if they're miserable. Although that would probably be offensive to some because many people would say that they are happy doing what they're doing, even if it's not something that they would normally be actually doing.
I
So
think they'd be happier if they weren't having to do it though. If
yeah,
they
if
got
they
the
got it,
same amount of money and they didn't have to do that job, I'm pretty sure they'd be happy.
no doubt about it. Like if you told them, do you want to have 6 months off? They would be like, of course,
Yeah,
yes.
6 months paid off. Like
Yeah.
you could still be happy, but like there's better things that
Yeah, there's
exist.
so many better things to do. Yeah, so I think that the other reason that they get bitter is that they don't like the fact that if they're working for money and somebody else is getting it without working. Because in our case, we were offering things in return, but there are also people that do not offer things in return, but that doesn't make the request any less valid. Like it's still
Mm-mm.
okay to ask for it because it's ultimately the individual's choice.
Somebody said, "How dare you ask for money when there's homeless people?"
Yeah.
And
So it's like, do you have to wait until you're a homeless person before you can finally
ask
be like
for
eligible
money?
for that? Yeah.
What level of suffering is acceptable before you ask for
before you can
money.
ask for money. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a mixed mentality with that too, because some people just look at that as like scum, and they won't give them any money. I mean, I've talked to several homeless people who have told me like I'm the first person who's looked at them all day.
I think it's hard for people to take on the responsibility of homelessness. I know that for me, it has been, because I feel personally responsible for like a lot of things in the world, even
Hmm.
though obviously I'm not. So it's hard to look and see all the pain and suffering around you. But I mean, if we have to because it's there,
Yeah,
and it's affecting us, even if we're
yeah,
pretending not to see it. We're all connected.
exactly.
We're all one.
I was with someone the other day, and they were pointing out how there was like rubbish on the ground, and oh, how terrible that people would just leave the rubbish there. And I said, well, are you gonna leave it there? Like, and like it was just a funny realization, because we often do that. Like we will, like I've done that a lot of my life. I've like walked past rubbish on the ground and just think, how can someone leave that there? And literally while I'm walking past it myself. And I
You're
think,
leaving it there.
yeah, and we do that a lot with the responsibility of homeless people and stuff. It's like we say, well, that's like a product of the system, or whatever it is, and we blame something else for it, but we're not taking any action to do something about it ourselves, which we're just as powerful to do. We can make a difference.
What's really sad is I see a lot of people getting fast food. Like people will give generously, they'll give fast food to homeless people, and then homeless people exist on fast food, and it's like it's really unhealthy. So then they end up having like a lot
Yeah.
of health problems on top of it. Why do you think people are so much more willing to give to charity auctions and click a button on a website that's, donate to the third world country rather
I
than pass $5 to a homeless person?
It's all marketing and brainwashing and promotion and all that kind of stuff. They never look into where the money's really going. It's like that's not so much of a concern. It's just more like, well, I donated this much.
To
You
this
know, I
organization. You just trust that the organization is going to make sure the money goes to a good place, but really
Mhm.
a lot of times the money is not going to good places.
It's probably
And
going
then
to
when
marketing to get
when
you to spend more money.
when we give money to a homeless person, we think, well, I want to know where that money's going. You better not spend that on booze, even though I'm going to go home and buy a $40 bottle of wine or something, right? Like, I'm going to go buy a $40 bottle of wine, give you $5 and say, you better not spend that on booze. Like, what?
Yeah, I did that once. I saw a homeless person. I was about to give them money, and then I came back, and they were smoking when I came back to give them. And then she asked me for money, and I was like, "What? So you can buy more cigarettes?" And I just carried on my way. And then suddenly I was like, "Wait, what the fuck did I just do?" I like turned back around and I gave her money, because I was like, "So what? Like, I can't judge what she's doing with that money."
She's allowed to buy cigarettes. She has probably a cigarette addiction, but we judge it so harsh.
But when you give money to an organization and they're using that to like promote themselves or promote their brand more, like thousands and thousands of dollars just to get more people to donate, that's not sort of even thought about, or like what you're saying with like the government spending money on weapons and like war and everything.
Oh my gosh, that is like seriously such a brainwash to me. Like, I can't believe so many people just are completely fine with how much money goes into like militarizing the police force
Just
and
by looking.
drone strikes and lobbying, and then coming back and saying, well, I don't think we should be giving like money to food stamps. I mean, it's really strange when people are saying, get a real job, because what we're doing as creators, we recognize it as being just as valuable as any other type of work. And the fact that we're not being compensated for it is already hard on its own. And then people say, go get a real job. And it's like, okay, so you want to debilitate us from creating our true creations and our true art and our true work even more. I feel like discouraging creators is one of the greatest crimes that people can do. Like one of the most nonviolent, like one of the worst nonviolent crimes that people can do, because it takes away from the beauty and the richness and the potential. Like, is it that hard
Mhm.
to figure out? That's what I like. Everybody thinks that this old system is like, they glorify it so much, and it's like it's awful. It could be so much better.
I know all it takes is really collective thinking and like collective action and like working on things together. I think of like how Even with Jehovah's Witnesses, they build all their own kingdom halls, like collectively as a community, and like that just shows how you can do that if you all come together with this common goal of doing something like that. Like they have people that are able to do the plastering and the building, and there's just enough people amongst them that they can do this. And like that's just a small scale, but imagine if there was like a worldwide thing where people were just like, all right, this is what we need, let's get together and like make this a reality for all of us. And then on top of that, with this whole idea of robots doing a lot of the mundane work, it frees a lot of time up, frees a lot of people up to then really follow their heart's desire and actually be doing the things that they want to be doing, without this trapped framework of feeling like you have to be in this constant like laboring after like just nothing.
After nothing, really, because robots really will be able to do a lot of these menial jobs that
Mhm.
make us feel like robots. And like there's a point, like there's a reason why they make us feel like robots, because we're going to be able to make robots that can do it, and then we can do the things that make us feel like humans.
And a lot of the time, the art and the music and stuff is designed to bring back that human emotion and bring back those feelings. And people have to escape into that to start feeling something again after they've spent so long feeling like a robot. But then the very thing that's bringing them back to that feeling is undervalued.
Yeah, it's a huge systematic brainwash, because a lot of media is around the 5-day work week to work hard and then party and drink alcohol and drink coffee.
Mm.
And I mean, a lot of these industries are made to keep people down. Like even like the 5-day work week, nobody likes that. Everybody thinks we should be working less. Other countries, no country works as hard as the United States. Like we all work all the time. And other countries don't do that, but the reason why the 5-day work week still exists in the United States the way it does, and why we don't have more time off, is because we spend all our money on the weekends to feel better. We work all week and then we spend all our money, and then the people who are at the top of these industries are really cashing in. It's a top-down power pyramid. People at the top are getting paid. People at the bottom are slaving away, and they're doing everything they can to feel better. And the commercials say, if you spend your money on this, you'll feel better. If you spend your money on this, you'll feel better. If you spend your money on this, you'll feel better. And so we do, and then we feel miserable because we spent all our money and we have to go back to work.
It's a perpetual cycle to keep people in the jobs and not having the time to really think about what's going on either. It's just, it becomes a normal way of living that doesn't seem unusual. We get complacent, I think, with just allowing, like, the fact that it's kind of normal for majority of the world to say that, yeah, I'll just work at this job that I don't really want to be at for 65 years and then retire. And like the fact that that's just like a normal setup, and they've got to that point of total acceptance of that is very interesting to me, that there's no like mass rebellion or like people getting together and being like, wait, what can we do about this? Like surely there's a better system that we could design.
I can't believe so many people for so long just bought into that and like did it every day. They went away from their families, away from their children, away from their spouses, away from their homes, away from their pets, away from the life that they were trying to live, and went into a sterile work environment with coworkers they don't necessarily like. And that's where they spent 8 hours of 5 days a week.
With the image of that perfect thing in mind, because they're trying to reach it, but it's like this almost unreachable mirage every time.
Because it's at home, because you're there working. I mean, your music really woke me up a lot too, because I don't know, I think a lot of times people just aren't even aware that these concepts or solutions could exist. We accept the world around us so wholeheartedly that we just think
it's like the only way. I don't think it's that they don't know that it sucks, but I think they just don't think that there's any like good solution. It's funny that I've always noticed that people just say, well, we can't just get back to bartering, like we can't just share, and it's like that's all people think. They think that's the only solution to this, is that we have to just start swapping things. It's like there's so many better solutions.
And it's true though. Like I remember when we first started talking about this, that was my original thought. I was like, yeah, well, bartering is like such a mess. Like I don't have a sheep to give for a book, you know, I just want a book. A book is really nice to have. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. Like there's universal income that can happen, that like we are taxed, and there's a tax on technology, and then that all just goes into one fund that's distributed equally among everybody. There's also just the idea that we could just all share everything that we have.
Hmm.
and all the things that we create. And I think eventually we will get to that point. It won't be for a while yet, but
Did you say that there is actually there is a play, like maybe it was in Canada or something, where they are already starting to implement that in
there's
your system?
several people, several countries, and even some companies working on distributing universal income. I don't really understand how a company would do it, but they're working on it. And so it's just something that a lot of people are working towards, because as soon as it's like conceptualized of and like people realize that it's actually a feasible solution, um, of course everybody's like, wow, here's a solution, my job sucks, I hate it, and like a robot could do it, you know. So I feel like all we need to do is spend our time focused on how can we make robots to replace our jobs. That's probably going to be a big industry, is robot automation, and like just companies that come in and say, how can we automate your workforce, you know,
Hmm.
and then just do that. I think even as consultants.
I think the mentality I've found, if I were to bring this up with people in the work industry and start talking about robots, it's like we're able to see this as a like near reality because we're seeing how this is developing. But in the everyday life, it seems that that seems like so futuristic and so like hid in the clouds that they're just like, all right, yeah, well, when you get your robots, but we're just gonna have to keep doing this until then. You're not providing us with any real solution. I think that's like the overall mentality that would be
But it's not
felt.
true. Go to the grocery store, look at how many places you can just check yourself out. That didn't used to exist.
Exactly.
Those are robots doing a human job. That's happening
Hmm.
in every industry across the board, where
Exactly.
machines and software and applications and computers and, you know, robots is just the word that we're using. It doesn't mean it's like this humanoid,
Yeah.
boxy, you know, it's like it can be the checkout station. It can be a piece of software, you
Yeah.
know, it can be Google just organizing everything better than your accountant.
A large amount of people's jobs standing there doing that checkout job is now pretty much made redundant because they don't need to be there. Really, they have like an onlooker just to make sure, but that's like cut, I don't know, 10 jobs down to one. And that's like, people think that's a bad thing, but of course it's actually a good thing to free people up.
It's a bad thing at
Um,
first because people can't, without another way
they
to
can't do
give
anything.
them income.
Yeah. But
So
on a wide scale, like if this was just like a huge new change in a new system that came about, that wouldn't be a problem as far as the income side of things.
and like you said, it's freeing people up. And I heard one guy talking about it. He said, everybody's always so concerned with people, with other people, you know, they're saying, oh, well, if somebody just got paid to do nothing, they would just do nothing. And the way this guy said it, he's like, stop thinking about what other people would do and think about what you would do with the money.
Yeah.
Think about what
Hmm.
you would do with $2,000 a month. What
Yeah.
would that free you up to do? And I feel like so many people, I think, yeah, people would watch, you know, Netflix for a while. People would just like take a lot of naps. People would just like, but there's nothing wrong with that. And then like, and people would also create some of the most cool, inventive, beautiful things. I think we'd see a lot of like maker spaces and hacker spaces really taking off, and a lot of interesting
There would be a lot more
hobbyists.
originality. It's
Oh
almost
yeah.
like when people are really bored, even if that's the right word, then they start coming up with original and creative ideas. Like if they're like, all right, well, we've been doing this for a while now, like we don't have any job, so like so much to go to, like this the conception of what a job is, and then they're just like, what can we do? How can we, have fun? And then it just turns into this like way of making things better. And I think that the whole world would shape into such a brighter and cooler place if everybody was just like free to really start discussing new ideas and like being more innovative and actually coming up with all these new inventions and creations.
I think you brought up a really, really, really good point, which is that people be bored and they'd want to start playing. And
Yeah.
that idea of play, I think, is what really distinguishes what people think of a real job versus, you know, I don't know what they can, like us, what they consider what we are doing. Um, because I think there's this mentality that in order to participate in the like quote unquote right way, we're supposed to be in pain. We're supposed to be
And pain and
suffering,
suffering. Yeah.
but it can just be play and play and play. It can all
Exactly.
just be fun.
If it was all fun, just imagine the stuff that we could actually bring about and how much better that world would be and how much happier everyone would be.
So what can listeners do? They're like, I hate my
It's
job.
like
I love this idea. What can
yeah,
they do?
what can they
I mean,
do?
part of it, I think I really kind of admire like your technique, which I never would have been brave enough to do, which is just like refuse to like do things that you don't want to do. And
I
people
mean,
get mad at you and like they like try to stop like supporting you, and like you just walk that line like carefully enough where you
yeah,
like put out enough effort that they don't like disown you and like
yeah. That is
I
pretty
don't
much
know.
that is the line that I walked for a while, and like it very much is like yeah, everyone jumping over a skipping rope at once, and then if you just stop skipping, like now nobody else can jump, and after a while they're just like, all right, take him off, and then
Just go sit on the side.
yeah, you're ruining it for everyone. So then they kind of forget about you. But it's like I think there's like two approaches. Like either you can find joy and happiness within the job that you're stuck in so that you don't have to be as miserable in it by making it more fun and making it less like right now everybody is considered to be pretty serious in their jobs, and like it's almost like you're not allowed to be seen having fun. Like if you're having too much fun, the boss will be out pretty soon and be like,
Stop having
why aren't you
fun.
working it? Yeah, exactly.
Working
Like
is
seriously,
not
that's like,
fun. What a
and so
detrimental idea.
I know. And instead you're just expected to just have this like sort of fake smile all the time and greet every customer. But you would naturally be doing that if you were allowed to just be kind of dancing at work and having fun and whatever you wanted to do, and just have a little bit more like freedom within those jobs would be like a pretty good, like that's actually even a way that you could start doing something is by getting the job still done, but actively kind of protesting in the way that you can have more fun at your job,
Protest
and
with
then
fun. I love that.
protest with fun, and then the employers will start to see that it actually has a positive impact on the sales, because obviously customers are going to be like affected by the positivity. People are going to want to come back to it, and that's why there's like vibrant cafes and stuff that get a lot of people in them, because they're open-minded enough to have people having fun and to be dressed however they want to be. They don't have to have these uniforms, they don't have, and like that whole kind of thing, if we can bring that in more within the system that we already have, that would be more of a transition rather than just like destroy this one straight out. Like that would be like
Right.
a better way of slowly bringing it into play, literally.
Yeah, that's genius and really smart. I mean, not only does that help the individual because they don't have to be miserable every day, but it helps the
Yeah, you'll be
companies,
happy.
it helps everybody.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I like I do like your approach, like as far as like stopping participating. And I think you can do that kind of with like not just like a family, of course, but like a government, where you just like are on unemployment and stuff. But that system is so unrewarding and so there's so much like hatred that goes towards it, which is really strange to me because people are willing to watch the government spend trillions of dollars killing other people,
On
and they're
weapons.
not willing to
Yeah.
like watch the government spend like $1,000 a year like trying to feed somebody. So
Hmm.
that's just like really strange to me. I think like just opening our hearts up as individuals to a more compassionate um
Compassion is so important. I love the use of that, because like the fact that we can just look at these homeless people or these people that have no food and just like, well, they should get a real job. That's their fault. And like maybe it is, I don't know, but like it's still not really a very compassionate thing to do, to just like kick them in the dirt even more and just be like, well, we struggled, you have to struggle up too, and allow them to even starve to death or whatever, just being like, well,
you don't know their
like
hardship. You don't know what they've
yeah,
been through. You don't know what they faced. And it doesn't take
yeah,
their struggle doesn't take away from your struggle, Like
yeah.
everything that you did to get where you are. There's this so much abundance. There's unending abundance in the universe. There's no reason for us to feel like we have to hoard it or protect it
Mhm.
or leave people in the streets suffering and
And
dying.
like while I do see, I understand that whole idea of like giving a man a fish and or teaching him to be a fisherman, that whole mentality, I definitely understand that, and I think a lot of poor people can get to this point where they depend on it so much that they haven't got those skills. But like it would be almost like you can give to people if you have a lot of money, but you could almost give more by helping them to raise themselves up into a more positive state to where they are going to be capable, because a lot of the time it's like a psychological thing. They might be really anxious, they might have gone through a lot of things, they might have depression, it could be all kinds of mental disabilities or disorders, or a different way of looking at the world that doesn't fit into our society, schizophrenic people and all this kind of stuff that people try and, block away and lock up. But if these are the people that are on the street, we should be trying to understand them more, understand their language, understand why they're having these difficulties and what they're good at, and finding what they're good at, and then helping raise them up through those things so that they're actually capable of doing something that can ultimately bring them an income. And in the meanwhile, supporting them financially while you're assisting them to raise themselves up, because it's not going to actually help to just give all these people money and not help them to get out of the situation that they're in. I think it's far more important to teach them what we can.
Yeah. It's so amazing what you're saying about that, especially like finding out what they like and what they're good at, because everybody likes and is good at something. And but I mean, even the issue with that still is this insistent value on labor. And it's like they've been studying ant colonies, and like I think there's between 10 and 20% of the ant colony that is, they're loafers. They don't do anything. They literally just sit there and they sleep and they just hang out. And they do that because that's how a healthy society functions. You have to have people who are just chilling out for part of the time. And I think it's perfectly fine to be somebody who's just hanging out, because you're still just as valuable as anybody else. You are not your labor. You are not your output. You are not your product. You are a person.
Being alive, just being alive is valuable in itself. And you're equally able to obtain everything that everyone else is, even if you're not doing anything. It doesn't make you a lesser person.
We take in dogs faster than we take in humans.
Yeah, that's interesting as
well. We're like, oh, a dog deserves to be taken care of. Like, oh, poor dog. Like, and then we like bring them into our house and we feed them and we bathe them.
Like, it's not as good of an example as a cat, because dogs kind of like do like whatever you tell them to, but like cats, a lot of the time cats literally just nap all day, and like there's a lot of cats that just sit around doing nothing. Like that's
and they're mean and they scratch you and they run away from you. They're like not even good company.
Cats
we do
are
everything
amazing,
for them.
But I'm just saying that they're like, they're these animals that they're not necessarily contributing to society in that way that we're expecting humans to do. But because it's an animal, we're like, well, that's okay. We'll look after them. But if it's a person doing that, then it becomes a problem. And I guess that's because the capabilities are saying, well, this person should be capable of doing this. But I don't know. It's just,
well, all cats should be capable of being nice. We should hold them all to that standard, and we don't. As long as you're getting fed and they're getting fed, who matter? Like what matters? If it is frustrating sometimes if you're doing a lot of work and you need help and you're not getting the help that you needed. But this whole mentality, this whole mindset that we're trying to promote right now is the fact that everyone should get the help that they need. So we can all work together so that everyone can be having what they need.
These people we're talking about that are doing nothing, like we're not necessarily saying that they're literally like not saying anything or offering anything of value. Like they probably, if you had a conversation with them, they might offer all this kind of wisdom or whatever. So there's all different levels. Just their presence might be just like so funny to be around. They might just be like a really funny person. I've met some of the funniest stoners that don't do anything, but like their ideas for the world, when I hear their ideas or their outlook, it just brightens up my whole life, and it makes me like look at things less seriously, and I don't care so much about things that I thought were important, because they're just like sitting back laughing at life, and and it's like that's valuable in itself.
It's just as valuable as a product.
I like the there's a Sprungle song called Nothing Is Something Worth Doing, and I love that because it's like it sums up that like nothing is still something, it's still.
Yeah, we're life. We are life. Like you never really are doing nothing. Even if you're sleeping or dreaming, you're interacting in these other realms. If you're resting, you're probably like just taking a freaking break from all the stuff that you've been doing. And breaks are like, no one cannot take breaks. Everybody has to take breaks, and
we're always doing something.
Yeah, we are. So if you don't have a real job and you're thinking about what it means to have a real job, and you're a legislator and you want to start bringing in universal income, do it. You want to start programming robots? Let's do it, you guys. Let's do it.
I think, again, it all comes back to community, getting together
Yeah.
building each other up, opening up new opportunities together, and just like getting outside of that system. And in the meanwhile, doing what we can within that system to change it from within. But ultimately, on the outside, trying to build something new because the old system is dead.
If
Not
you like
dying,
our,
dead.
it's already dead. We're past it. Jeremy and I are past it. If you like our content and you learned something, this is our job. So you can donate $2.22 to the link in the description of this video. And thank you guys for your attention. These motherfuckers don't know shit about us. We have all the value. We're telling everybody what should be done. Get with our program or die.
They say that money makes the world go round, but I don't really think that this is true. I think it's more important I enjoy myself. I think it's more important to love you. Oh, 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 oh. Don't you want to dance and play? Feel the music in your soul. Ooh, let's all get electrified. What's the point of slaving till we die? They pay you just enough to live for one day, so you have no choice but to slave away. This is a game designed to rule your life. They're taking all your freedom and your time. Oh, 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 oh. Don't you want to dance and play? Feel the music in your soul. Ooh, let's all get electrified. There is no point in slaving satisfied. What's the point in slaving till we die?